But as we mentioned, here's the matchup. Raven versus L5, match number 1, and Mighty versus Blossom, match number 2.
And picking up your point about Blossom, they definitely still look a bit too disorganized at this moment in time, but we really need to remember that it takes a lot of times for less strong teams to develop into strong teams, and I think Blossom are doing an admirable job of going through all the necessary steps.
Yeah, as we mentioned yesterday, I think they are fitting right into the new HGC format. They're trying lots of things, they're climbing up little bit by little bit. Maybe by next year they'll be in the top 3 or 4, who knows. Well, but before, here's Raven on the left, and here's Darvish. I love his pink keyboard, and we just met them downstairs. They were seemed like they were enjoying, they were having a cute coffee time downstairs.
Yeah, so they were cracking a cool one with the boys there, but but Darvish seems to be finally finding his footing again as a flex player after spending almost an entire year as a support. He definitely did not fit in the role, and it could have been the end of his career, really, when he exited from MVP Miracle like that, but thankfully he found a spot in Raven and back in the position that he was best known for, where he became the star player that led him to join MVP Miracle in the first place. So definitely something to watch out for, but the key player shown on screen is Theon.
Yes, I want to speak about Theon because sometimes his Anubarak, especially when he goes in for the charge, more likely Diablo, I think he felt a lot more comfortable on Diablo, but oftentimes he charged in with Anubarak or Diablo. He was alone. Seemed like he was rushing when his teammates were all the way in the back line. So I think if he coordinates together with the teammates, he can have a lot better engage oftentimes. I think he is the key player because of that reason. I think with him, they can fully engage and actually compete against L5 pretty decently today. And talking about L5, here they are after a strong win yesterday against MVP Miracle. Actually dropped a single game, but looked pretty strong. Hooligan still seems to be the weak link, if you can call it, but of course, in all the interview, they have been saying that Hooligan has been having a lot and tons of pressure as he was coming in to fill in the spot of Nobilis.
Hooligan has been talked about by pro players for such a long time because if you meet him in Hero League, although he pretty much feeds on everything else other than Warriors, sorry Hooligan, but that's how you play. Well, his Warrior play in Hero League is absolutely amazing. When he's in the zone, he plays like the sign of old, or Noblesse, but on stage, that's where it all falls apart so often, too often, to consider him a true top player. But hopefully, with his new buddies at L5, he will be able to overcome those stage nerves. And speaking of his buddies from L5, here is Jungha, the ace card of this team.
Of course, his Marthale was decent, but they were up against, and it was pretty rough. A solo lane also into the team fight, but it's Chen and Valera coming out from Warhead Junction. Though Valera did not do too much, he was doing lots of backdoor. He only got caught once or twice, and he was oftentimes picking on targets. And he showed some impressive plays from Chen too. So let's see. He's the key player of the day, and L5 seems to be the favorites of the series here.
And speaking about Jungha, we love to wax poetic about how great Rich is mechanically and how much pressure he puts on the solo lane. But speaking to a lot of professional players, not only those on L5, but on other teams too, a lot of them seem to think that Jungha is the best player in Korea at the moment. If you had to pick one player, it would be Jungha, all of them said. So that speaks something about his individual form at the moment right now, but now we see the map pick, and the first set is going to be played on Dragonshire.
Yes, indeed. Dragonshire map number 1 was chosen by L5 by a banned Warhead Junction this time, and Raven banned Braxis, so both StarCraft banned as usual at standard. It's very standard in Korea, and L5 looks like they want to go for the full macro from the beginning, which Raven has been having the biggest problem. That's the macro, because they usually draft into a teamfighting comp, and when they are out macroed, they start to fall apart.
Yeah, definitely. Raven has been having a tough time on Dragonshire in general, but isn't it really sad that Korea bans the StarCraft maps the most?
Kind of, yes.
It's
because
ironic.
that's where all esports started with StarCraft. But let's go in. There's the Martial ban already against Jungha. As we've seen the solo laning, we saw the 2v1 solo lane, 3v1 solo lane actually coming out from Rich.
Raven should pick up the Genji here, right?
That seems likely.
They love Genji. And I would be very surprised if they didn't pick it, but maybe they have second thoughts, seeing as how L5 opened it up for them so willingly.
It's very noticeable that they banned both Angels from the beginning, and Genji is open, of course.
And
But there's also a thing, seems like sometimes they were actually picking Uther first pick, oftentimes.
yeah, that's what we saw many times in their series against MVP Miracle last week. And I think that would be very much justified as well, seeing as how well Chom plays that Uther. His Divine Storms in their series against Miracle were absolutely amazing. He was hitting 3-man storms, 4-man storms over and over again. And he had some problem like communicating those timings with his team. Sometimes all of his teammates' damage abilities would be on cooldown when the storm hits. But apart from those moments, his Uther play has been impeccable.
Yep, and exactly with Genji just left, you can see the smile on SCSC's face. Okay, if you're gonna leave Genji open, we'll take it, along with Stitches, who has been the perfect pair. Most of the time with Uther, but of course already taken by Raven. They can just pick up Malfurion later on, even draw that as a ban card. I think they will love to see Malfurion as the second ban coming out from Raven, because that opens up even more.
Lots of things possible for Raven right now. I guess they could go for the very standard Tacit or Vala, but that has been something that Raven has been continuously hesitant to do. They are not confident in NMX's Vala, I think. I think that's the main issue here.
NMX usually played ranged assassins. Of course, a lot of mages too, like Li Ming, sometimes Gul'dan, even phase number 1, I remember.
He definitely gravitates towards those mages.
Picking up both DPS from the beginning, before the second ban phase. There's Greymane and Tychus picked for Raven. They are hiding there. Maybe this time they're considering about going global with the Haka. Who knows?
It could be a possibility. Taking Greymane in preparation for taking the Haka in the later rotation, definitely a possibility. Also serves to sort of deter the Haka pick coming out from L5, because Greymane is such a solid answer to the Haka in general. Even if you look at it in game or look at it through statistics, the results are the same. The Haka suffers very much against Greymane. And L5. Maneuver Rock Band would be the most standard, considering that they have the Genji and it comes out. As for Raven, they could go for the support choke, as you mentioned.
They want to eliminate the Cocoon threat, and DeYoung has been doing somewhat of a very good Cocoon during the team fight, and also limiting one of his comfort heroes.
I think if L5 pick up something like Tacitor and Cassia here, that might be a very good answer to what Raven have. So that could be something they are willing to do, but they are hovering over the Haka, and I have no idea why.
It's because they are afraid of the macro. Big macro picture comes out, and that's where everything starts to fall apart, as I mentioned before. And they are oftentimes they ban, even when the Falstad was in meta, they ban Falstad immediately every single time, because they're not the best team in terms of macro. And when you're against L5, who does every single thing perfectly against you with by macro-wise, so banning a Dehaka seems a little questionable, as you said, but I think it's just to get that out of their mind right now.
I find this a bit disturbing, because L5 has traditionally been one of the teams to use Falstad the best way possible alongside MVP Black, so it's not like they don't have access to globals, and Illidan is another global, so it's not like taking away the Dehaka really did anything in terms of map movement. And again, as we said, Greymane and Tychus and Uther, all of them are very, very solid against Dehaka, so why would they ban away a pick that they were so well prepared for? All three of their heroes were so good against Dehaka. And now Illidan.
We can already see the pressure they are having against L5 in the draft. I think that's the biggest one that's coming up for them. And the dive comp is complete, and they don't have any. L5 does not have any CC actually, except for the totem. They do have burst damage though.
They have the
lots
hunt.
of. They have the hunt. That's a CC for sure.
CC.
And the gorge.
And
Yes.
the gorge.
But oftentimes, even without the CC, sometimes we saw targets blowing up just from the damage. Just from the damage, it's constant damage. The burst damage, I think they have it. If you land all the shuriken on one target, it does massive amount of damage too.
Diablo Arthas, so taking what is remaining of the standard meta warrior pool, Arthas obvious answer against Illidan, and I think it was a switch up between Tyrael and Diablo, but DeYoung has always felt a little bit more comfortable on those hard engaged heroes.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, Tyrael, it can actually fit perfectly for L5 if they want to go towards that way. Stitches, of course, can tank a lot, but if that Cursed Bullet comes onto him, that he will be lacking and he will soak up a lot of heal. And Rehgar does have Ancestral Healing, but if he Ancestral heals Stitches, maybe Illidan has to go towards a Metamorphosis, but okay, L5 going all macro, all the big picture is coming in here as Raven seems to be, they will have a very big problem catching up to the big macro. Let's see how well they can actually do it. Which draft do you like better?
Well, I think I like L5's draft better, but even aside from that, picking up your point about CC earlier, since Raven is the side that has Uther, I don't think it matters too much that L5 has a dirt CC, so.
Yep, but this is only the beginning, the first game. Let's see if Raven can take game number 1 or L5 will go towards the victory. Let's go into game number 1 in Dragonshire. In blue, Raven, Darvish on Greymane, Hamlin on Arthas, NMX on Tychus, DeYoung on Diablo, and Chom on Uther.
And in the red, we see L5 with Hooligan on Stitches, SC on Genji, Jungha playing his Illidan, SD on Falstad, and Swoy on Rehgar. Talking about Swoy on Rehgar, his Rehgar play yesterday was a joy to behold. Every single one of his cleanses, his ancestral healings,
That's right.
So on point.
So when we talk about, and talking about Chom, he gets hooked but does survive.
It's a standard mid lane tussle,
yeah.
Nothing much happens.
A little skirmish there, but as you mentioned, Swoy's play actually yesterday with Ancestrals, healing, and actually diving in super heavily.
Oh, wow, but SD almost falls in the top lane.
Ooh,
very low.
Was aggressive and almost took the kill, but okay, this is the new swaps that we've been seeing a lot, especially with the stronger teams. Maybe because first was low, that Jungha had to go top to cover for him at the same time. But look at this hook.
Oh,
with the hook, the flight.
This is a dead Arthas.
This is more than enough damage.
And dying at this moment in time, pretty huge. They are forced to rotate Tychus to the top lane. First control of the top temple will definitely go to L5 as well.
Well, with the rotations, they already got the early lead, and they will soak up a little bit more EXP because of, look at those hooks coming out from Hooligan tonight from the beginning. Though it didn't really get them the kills, but those gank onto the top, Arthas grabbing Arthas, grabbing Chom from the beginning of the fight. Let's continue to see those hooks.
Those hooks aren't really about getting kills at this point since he was alone. It's about instilling the fear. And the outer wall with the top fort of Raven going down extremely quickly. We have to look at the bottom side of the map to see how well Raven is responding. The observer should show it any minute now.
Seems like Rehgar is there to harass a little bit, so it seems like an okay trade for now.
Okay trade, definitely.
It actually seems a little bit about the same, and the thing is they're looking for a kill onto Hamlin though.
Oh, this could be different if Hamlin actually dies though.
Okay, not gonna fully commit. It was very close, but he wasn't sure if he would get the kill. Here's a rotation coming out from Hooligan. He wants to stop this coming from happening.
So a forward exchange, and the side with 2 globals will definitely benefit more from a forced exchange. So good things happening continuously for L5 here. Raven, good decision to exchange those forwards, but still not a good thing to happen for their side.
Yeah, of course. And they, with the CCs, with those charges and CCs available, they can also look for the ganks, but the problem is their rotation. Okay, if they can get a kill here, then that's a good news, but if they cannot...
Oh, that was so close! What? So close.
That must have been less than 10 HP left on that bird.
It sort of reminds me of Rich's escape on Medivh from
the
Lockdown's Chromie yesterday, yeah. So, L5 keeping ahead in the overall map pressure because they are ahead in the Bruiser camp and equal in the Siege camp rotations. So, still everything going in the favor of L5, although the game is still pretty much even at this point in time. I think the advantages that L5 have gleaned through these early game rotations will start to show mostly when Illidan gains access to the hunt.
Yep, there's a gank attempt to Genji, but oftentimes Genji will escape with that deflect and the Swift Strike. We see a lot of the Swift build coming out from Genji, especially after the small changes, the small nerf onto the 4 talent with the Shuriken.
Braymin almost finished with the Bruiser camp on the bottom side of the map. This was a gamble on the side of Raven, but I think it will pay off.
Okay, instead of going for the Dragon Knight, they're going for the gank, and SD comes. I think that's more than enough damage to get Chom for now, and maybe even get looking for a kill onto Diablo, but not even close, as Uther can still heal.
Falstad should be able to take the Dragon Knight if he goes to channel it right away.
I think it's more than enough time, yes.
Yeah, he got it.
And SD with the first Dragon Knight will start pushing. This is the power of Global, and they are using it to get their advantage from the early lead. Here we go. And that's the kind of rotation we've been talking about. And Raven has been struggling, but not too much, actually. They've been responding pretty well from the 4 trade from the beginning. It will be, if they keep on letting these kind of rotations happen and let just free Dragon Knight go to L5 multiple times, then that will be a problem. But the first one seems okay to me.
So Raven not falling apart immediately, as you said, and that's commendable, but L5 are taking these small advantages in a very methodical fashion. And I really think the new L5, it lacks a lot of things compared to the old L5. But I think one advantage, the one area that they're actually stronger at compared to the yesteryears, the last season, is actually their consistency. I don't think they're going for those really high-risk plays as those Nobles used to make sometimes, but wow.
That was a low risk with high return, and seems like talking about high return, there's an Ancestral, they're 10, Raven is still 9, and 3 kills already from top to the mid lane.
You were just going to talk about how Raven was holding up well, and then they had to do this.
Yes, and exactly as the Ancestral came in, and that was enough. And perfect disengage, the Gus comes back in 50 seconds, and while that time, meanwhile they can do all the rotational work. They have their own camp, and right after, I think they still have time to invade into the camp. Raven just hit 10, so there's a Divine Storm, as you mentioned. Chom's Storm has been pretty great, but they need a little bit more teamwork to it to bring in the burst damage.
Something noteworthy that we have to mention here is also that Greymane took go for the throat. So it remains to be seen whether he will regret that heroic choice or not. Sometimes you really want that cursed bullet after you take R1. But let's see what happens. Hook misses. Not that important. And to look back at what happened 2 or 3 minutes ago, the series of events that led up to the first Dragon Knight, I think it was a good idea for Darvish to attempt to take the bottom Bruiser camp. It was a moderately high-risk play, but something that they could have, that was justified. But the problem was that while Greymane was taking the bottom camp, oh, but a gank heading on to Darvish here. Should be dead.
Oh my.
Oh,
even getting the maximum ammo out from the tower. But actually catching Hooligan here. That's a nice news. Getting Stitches with the Bio off also. And if Genji should be able to escape easily.
Ooh,
or is the shift down? I don't think he has shift available. Even had to use Ancestral. Now that's a good news for Raven. Even though they're behind the rotational work, if they force a team fight within the next few minutes, use this as the advantage.
So Raven still has a lot of fight left in them, but L5 with the supreme disrespect, Jungha just diving into 4 members and not getting punished.
Not getting punished, and again, HGC coming in. They're buying time. They bought a lot of time, actually, to have Falstad push all the way into the second fort, right next to the keep.
Darvish, don't go into the... Okay, so he wasn't that stupid.
And after getting the Ancestral out, they could have done so much more. They could have got the rotation top and maybe tried to force
They get the Dragon Knight as well.
I'm lost in words.
Oh.
The aggro play coming out from L5 bought so much time because they have globals. That's the way, that's how you use your teammate to actually go further into advantage. And Raven cannot deal with this because they have to take care of the Dragon Knight pushing the mid lane. If they want to put in the resource, SDE can... Ooh, actually only got one. Seems like the target stun was used.
SD
and
is going to go
even,
down.
Yes.
So...
Lots of resources spent, and meanwhile they can take care of, and see, if they have to move someone else to the top because they do not have the global, they will lose something else.
And as we talked about earlier in this game, the small advantages that L5 reaped during the early game may not have materialized right away into a huge stomp. But past level 10, once L5 gets access to that double global, it becomes so easy to run circles around Raven, and that's what's happening right now. And something to talk about is also the supreme confidence that L5 has on their side. It is so apparent from the way that they are playing. L5 are unafraid to just play with fire in front of 4 members of Raven, and Raven aren't confident enough, in contrast, to necessarily deal with it.
Yeah, they could have it with the perfect teamwork because they actually have lots of CCs in their hand. They have Diablo and also Arthas. If they can root and throw in the perfect positions, let's see if the damage is enough. That's Genji. HGC, as what we saw yesterday, the aggro play has been superb. He has been escaping most of the time.
And SD should be able to get away from this gank attempt easily.
But there is another gank attempt
from
the
Hunt. Oh, but he didn't realize it.
Jungha coming in. Is that going to be enough damage? SD gets stunned, cannot get out. There's a Divine Storm, but HGC and Swoy comes in for the save. Jungha did not get the kill there, but here's the Dragon Blade. He's looking for the kill onto Hamlin. There's the APOC. Does not hit anyone though. Let's see, this is a mess here. Hamlin tries to survive as Jungha dives in once more. DeYoung is caught in the back line. HGC will get Ancestral. This is a mess. Messy team fight.
Team fights, but Jungha manages to make it out alive, or does he not?
Ooh, and Max comes in from the side. Odin does so much damage onto the back line, but the team fight is already over. The entire front line, the support is already gone. The only tanks remaining in terms of on the side of Raven here.
But Raven are looking to turn it around. Get the pick onto Swoy. Swoy manages to run like a wolf out of it, though.
That's the thing, but they have no heal. There's a short hook.
It sort of looks like both teams had fun in that team fight.
That was a long team fight. Maybe I should have not started doing play-by-play. I did not know that was going to go that long, but
this is going to be another free Dragon Knight for L5,
even with
though.
SDE, even if you lose Falstad, there's a flight, there's a global. That's the power. 3rd Dragon Knight already.
With this, they should be able to knock down, well, standard fare would be to start chipping away, posturing towards the mid-keep. Then as Illidan and Falstad push in the side lanes, Dragon Knight can choose to rotate to either one. Usually you would want to go for the bottom keep, but since the top keep is entirely exposed, that could be different. But Illidan will certainly fall to this gank.
They spent all the resources to get one kill. They got one kill. Divine Storm secured the kill there, but they are losing the structures, and Tallslot has been pushing the bottom lane, and they will get the fourth, even more EXP lead.
I'm really impressed by that decision from Raven to just put all their resources into securing that kill on Illidan, though. Definitely takes the wind out of L5's sails. And as we can see, L5 have no option but to retreat and just wait out the remaining time on the Dragon Knight.
And they'll be force pressuring a little bit more onto a CSC. But for now, and actually, that kind of CC, that combo, maybe they're going in here, and they are.
APOC is available.
APOC is available, as you said, and Illidan cannot come back. He's back. He can use the Hunt, but camp is already taken. NMX had to use the Odin, but I think that's a fair trade, if you ask me.
Raven looked much more confident right after following that pick onto Illidan in the top lane. And again, all of their heroics will be up very, very soon. They are on equal talent tiers at the moment, perhaps with one big team fight win. Oh, but Darvish gets got!
Oh, and there's the Hunt. As you mentioned, that was a CC, but APOC comes in. The healing, the armor comes in. There's a charge from Tiong harassing Genji, but that will be the first kill onto Greymane. Ancestral does connect at the very end as CSC will be saved. And they're onto the chase, and Raven seems to be falling apart in this small choke zone. And perfect timing, the camp is also working for them at the same time. And this camp, naturally, it seems like they were going for this camp from the beginning.
Clean team wipe coming out from L5, and they could decide to take possibly 2 keeps through this rotation because the top keep is entirely exposed, as we said earlier. If they're super greedy, they could also go for the core as well, since they have level 20.
And they also have Illidan. So much heroics available, and the Gust will actually also help them when to disengage. Seems like they are going for the core. It seems they have enough damage, more than enough, especially when you have Genji and Illidan on your team. 30%, it's going down. It seems like the Gust was used, Falset died, but that doesn't matter. The game is over, and game number 1 will go to L5.
What a clean victory, and although Raven looked to be coming back into the game, they had one chance to win it all with the level 16 against 18, posturing for a team fight, but Hooligan lands the perfect hook. Jungha has trust in Hooligan landing that hook, follows up with the Hunt immediately, and that clean CC chain with the 2 CCs that they basically had secured the ending of this game.
Right after the Hunt came in, DCC, the target CC they had, it was actually well done to get kills, and it started the team fight. And as we mentioned yesterday, they were missing the Falstad player. They're missing Natrojin, but STE is stepping up, bringing that Falstad, and that actually, this looks similar to what they played before, the macro and how they go around the map. And of course, STE, there were some actually a little more than some of the moments that where he was picked off. He could not use the Gust to disengage or use the flight as an escape. Like, not as good as Sake level or Natrojin level yet, but I want to see him improve and bringing that false stat a little bit more.
I was impressed with the decisions that he made during the game. His mechanical proficiency on Falstad, he didn't look exactly the most comfortable on the champion. His gusts were pretty much off. He always missed the Uther, and that led to the CC chains repeatedly. But aside from those slight missteps, I really liked how L5 approached this game. But props to Raven too, because even up until the end, they were continuously behind in every facet of the game, but still, they retained their bite. They tried to come back into the game multiple times through decisive picks, and that's a side of Raven that we haven't been consistently seeing, but last week we saw it, this week we're seeing it, so I don't think they're going to win against L5 today, but if they keep this up,
that's right,
they can hope for better things in the coming weeks.
I do agree. Oftentimes, they were very indecisive when they had to make one move when they were pushed in both sides or all sides. They actually made a move and they made it work, and those CCs look pretty nice. They did not win yet,